caution. Your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. Well, Bernie Sanders leads in the New Hampshire Democratic primary. The race is too early to call, though. We do have some numbers. Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar will join Sanders in the top 3 spots. We do know that, according to NBC News. They're reporting on that. It's too early, though, to figure out exactly where everybody stands. We know Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and former Vice President Joe Biden are not going to reach that 15% threshold that's needed to get delegates. So they're not going to get delegates in New Hampshire, Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden. That's not good for them. Buttigieg, of course, got the most pledged delegates in Iowa, and Sanders really close behind. That's basically a tie. But now Bernie's ahead, leading the New Hampshire Democratic primary, and it's definitely going to come down to Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, and Amy Klobuchar. Who would have thunk? Amy Klobuchar. Anyway, it got me thinking, sometimes I mention that I'm sympathetic to Bernie Sanders, what he represents, especially his supporters who are really angry and upset at the establishment elites for getting us into the mess we're in. One crisis after another, and whether you're going to look at it from the populist spin on the right or from the left, in reality, there's an overlap there, a Venn diagram. Most of us really do have an overlap. And I'm going to attempt to find that overlap, believe it or not, with Bernie Sanders. Yes, we're going to dig into his policies. I know Medicare for all, that's one, college for all, but we're going to look a little bit closer and analyze his policies and really look and see if there's any kind of overlap we can find with the Democrat socialist. Okay, well, I went to his website. Anybody can do that too. You can follow along, berniesanders.com, and let's take a look. A welcoming and safe America for all is his first position, and that consists of breaking up ICE. So he believes in breaking up ICE. That's obviously a very far left position. I don't see how that makes anybody safer. It's definitely not a position that I could support or find any overlap with. So when it comes to his immigration policy, don't like it. Medicare for all. Create a Medicare for all single-payer national health insurance program. I can't deal with that either. A lot of people like the insurance they have. We like the fact that we're the most scientifically advanced medicine in the world. We just came up with a drug, an experimental drug we found that works in treating coronavirus symptoms. Guess who made it? We made it. An American pharmaceutical company made it. When you're doing the Medicare for all, you really think we're going to have the most advanced medicine in the world? No, they'll destroy all of that. You know that. And the rich people will fly over to Japan or Germany for the best treatment. The best professionals, they won't be here anymore because there'll be no money in it. It's capitalism, baby. That's what makes things better. Capitalism with some regulation, yes, but capitalism at its core, not socialism. Anyway, college for all, guaranteeing tuition and debt-free public colleges, universities, HBCUs, minority-serving institutions, and trade schools for all. Of course, college for all and eliminating the debt. That's Bernie Sanders' platform on education. You really can't eliminate all the debt. I don't understand how you tell somebody who paid their way through school or somebody who paid their kids' way through school and is still paying off that student loan debt that they missed the cutoff. Sorry, your debt's not going to be forgiven, or because you paid it off on time, well, you missed out. You should have just defaulted. It would have all been forgiven anyway. So that's not right. What I do find overlap here is the idea of free trade schools. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you could do it in high school. You could just put a trade school program as an elective and require that to be in every high school that way. People could learn how to work on cars, for instance, or the new kind of electric cars. They could be trained for how to work on Teslas, for instance, in addition to regular cars. And that's just one example, but electricians and plumbers, lots of jobs that machines, robots, are just not going to be good at because they're not going to be able to be agile in a situation to get into their underground and do the plumbing and manipulate the wires for electrical work. That's always going to take a human, at least for a long time. Why not set up trade schools with those kind of programs? Give people an option. Not everybody holds a million numbers in their head. Some people like to work with their hands, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be looked down on upon that. Actually, we need those kind of people to thrive as a society. Or what are we going to do? Just have open borders and let all the immigrants do that for us? That makes no sense. So another policy that I can't say yes to entirely, but actually I found the first place of overlap, I do agree, with free trade schools and also community colleges. I believe maybe not free, but we should keep community colleges, junior colleges, whatever you're going to call them, keep those very, very affordable for people and use that as a stepping stone for people that can qualify and get a great program at a community college. That's a great idea, but you don't need to give a 4-year university education to every single person. There has to be some standards, some requirements. You can't just open up the floodgates to everybody, and then that's not going to do them any good. It's not easy to pass college, university. I still get nightmares. Okay, housing for all. End the housing crisis by investing $2.5 trillion to build 10 million new houses, affordable housing units. So, and again, a mixed overlap here. We have to build millions of new housing units. I don't see why the federal government should have to pay the money or put up the $2.5 trillion to do that. And also, I don't see why you have to mandate them to be affordable. What is affordable anyway? It should just let the market decide. If you have enough houses in a market, then the prices are going to be accurate and reflective of what a house should cost. It's when you have games being played, not enough houses being built on purpose in order to drive up the housing prices so the developers get richer, the brokers get richer, the bankers get richer, and the property taxes go up for the communities, the governments, and a lot of the times corrupt politicians who all they care about is the short-term property tax. They don't care about the long-term success of their communities in many cases, unfortunately. So I can't get with mandating $2.5 trillion in affordable housing units, but I do believe we need to build more housing units, encourage and incentivize the private market to build the housing that needs to be built in areas like California and New York and across the country. Usually, unfortunately, it's these Democrat-controlled states that have the housing crises. So I wonder why. Workplace democracy. This is a crazy, crazy idea that he's put up there to establish federal protections against the firing of workers for any reason other than just cause. That's the only thing you can fire somebody for is just cause. Nothing else. No layoffs, nothing. Now, layoffs aren't great. But you can't make them illegal. How are you going to make it illegal to fire somebody? That makes no sense. They do have that in Europe, and their economy doesn't grow. It just sits there. Horrible youth unemployment. Everybody's afraid to hire anybody. Once you hire someone, you're completely stuck with them. If you let them go, you're going to get sued, and they're going to win. In this country, you'll get sued if you let someone go too, but you have some rights. At least there's liberty. At least you're going to get a fair shake, both parties. Well, with this workplace democracy stuff, it looks to me like there's going to be a horrible employment rate, and people are just going to be terrified of hiring anybody for anything. Tax on extreme wealth. Elizabeth Warren talks about this one a lot. But what's extreme wealth anyway? For me, it's people worth more than $20 billion. There's about 25 of these folks. And I think the ones that are really up there, the top 10 richest Americans, are really sick. You're looking at Warren Buffett. You're looking at Mark Zuckerberg. You're looking at, guess who? Mike Bloomberg, worth $61 billion. I'm fine with taxing that kind of extreme wealth, but according to Bernie Sanders, anybody worth more than $32 million is extremely wealthy. It's just not the case. A lot of people worth $32 million one year are worth zero the next year. This is a free market economy, and a lot of people do have a couple really great years, maybe not 32 million, but people have good years and people have bad years. Extreme wealth is when money's no object, when you just sit back, give it to your kids, give it here, cut ribbons, and pat yourself on the back for doing nothing, for doing absolutely nothing. That's the club of oligarchs, American aristocracy, that makes, I would say, 10 or 15, 20 billion people worth that amount. I would argue are the people we should be looking at closely in terms of who has been working with Epstein, who are the sick pedophilia rings that are organizing the child sex rings, who are those people? And you got to look at a shifting group because they move in and they move out. But at the end of the day, the top 10, top 15 richest Americans are not our friends. We got to look closely at them. You can find it. I'm not saying to do anything except maybe shame them. Shame them. And if you're going to have to tax an extremely wealthy group of people out of fairness principles, it should be those worth over 10, 15, 20 billion, not people with a net worth of 32 million. That's ridiculous. Now, the high-speed internet for all on his platform is a great idea. This one I agree with 100% that there should be a basic internet plan. Right now, there's a monopoly on the internet utilities, and it's horrible. And I'm not for that at all. I think that a guaranteed basic internet affordable package is a great idea. At this point, internet is like water. It's a public utility, and we should treat it like that. That's not socialism. That's common sense. I agree with him on that. I also agree with him on legalizing marijuana. His plan is to legalize marijuana in his first 100 days with an executive action. And you can say, Dan Kingston, you're just biased because I heard that episode of you toking ganja with a Rasta. And yeah, it's true. What, we're not supposed to vote in our self-interest? So full disclosure, okay, I support that legalization of marijuana because I smoke the ganja with the Rasta. Jobs for all. This is absolutely crazy. This can't happen. This would destroy the economy. Enact a federal jobs guarantee to ensure that everyone's guaranteed a stable job that pays a living wage. How do you do that? How do you guarantee a stable job to everyone at a living wage? It's la la land. It's just dream after dream. And to put that in his platform just shows that while he's authentic about what he believes, socialism, democratic socialism, he's a complete phony when he's coming to these platform ideas of how he's going to achieve this grand vision. There's no way you can do these things. He's not even trying to make it credible. He's just putting pie in the sky ideas and hoping they're going to stick. And guess what? They are sticking because people are so upset. They're so upset. They're willing to go anywhere, to look for anything, to help them out of the situation they're in right now. The economy's great, but not for many. Not for many that are struggling with multiple jobs. And look at all the benefits of the nation. All the wealth of the nation goes to illegal immigrants. It goes to people that have no right to share in the success of this country. And then they say, wow, if times are good and this is how it is for me, what's it going to be like when the times are bad? And so people are turning to Trump and people are turning to Bernie Sanders. And those fat cat, egoist, globalist mainstream media types are sitting there high in the sky saying, shame on you. How dare they? How can this happen? Aren't they so stupid? And what does this say about the state of America? I'll tell you what it says. It's a wake up. It's a light from the dark. We're fed up. The American people are fed up. And now everyone's going to have to listen to us.
This is Kingston Country.
The Dan Kingston Podcast is brought to you by Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers. This is a great time of year to plan your summer vacations. Lots of great travel specials for cruises and tours. Call Traveling with Janice and Cruise Brothers for all these ideas for families, groups, weddings. 480-648-3324 or email travelingwithjanice@gmail.com. Can you imagine if Bernie Sanders were to win the presidency? It would be better than a Michael Bloomberg, but it would not be good for the economy, not by a long shot. I think we could handle it. It would be a one-term presidency. The economy would tank, and a challenger would emerge. It would be like a Carter situation, and we could withstand that, okay? We could not withstand a Bloomberg. He would solidify the oligarchs, the American oligarchy, to a position of power. It would be impossible to dethrone at that place. He is the single greatest existential threat to this country besides China, in my opinion. Mike Bloomberg, representing the American oligarchy. He's the person. He's the boogeyman. It's not Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, he's not ideal, but at least he represents something real. At least he represents the will of a segment of the American people. What does Michael Bloomberg represent besides his portfolio?
95% of your murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15, 21. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every state.
What he's saying is that 95% of the crime fits one MO. Minority males, 15 to 35, I believe he said, and that they should just take it and Xerox it to the police departments across the country. And I ask you this, if Donald Trump said that, what would the reaction have been? What would the reaction should be to Michael Bloomberg saying that the police should get a Xerox MO of every minority male age 15 to 35. And that's how you solve crime. And that's how he defends stop and frisk. There's something to be said about defending stop and frisk, but not that way. Not by saying that all the crime fits one MO, as if a male minority is an MO. What does that even mean? I mean, what is a minority anyway, right? How can you even tell? Sometimes you can't. What's that, a tan? Are you Cuban or is that a tan? Right? I don't know. Is that nonsense? What, Irish used to not be white, now Irish is white? So I guess all the crime, Irish people would have been considered a minority. Oh, but you know what he meant. You know what he means. That's even worse. So we all know what he means. What does he mean? Seems to me like he doesn't have much compassion. He doesn't have much empathy, and he doesn't know how to talk. There's a different way to say that the African American community is plagued by violence. They're victims of it. Okay, I want to wrap up by talking about the Bernie Sanders rally he had in New Hampshire, kind of celebrating his lead there. The Strokes came and performed. And at the end, they started inviting people. They're a popular band, a rock band. And young people were coming up on stage. The lead singer invited people up. Come on, come up on stage as he was singing. Everybody did. They're pouring on stage. And the song is New York City Cops. If you've ever heard the Strokes, if you've heard that song. So they're singing New York City Cops. Everybody's coming in. It's a huge crowd. It's like a free-for-all, this huge crowd. And the police officer looks like he's part of the act. He's not. It's a real police officer is going out there and trying to get the Strokes' attention. Looks like he's saying stop, or, stopping people from trying to get on stage. People are pouring on stage. And then the Strokes, they start singing New York City Cops. They aren't that smart. New York City Cops. They aren't that smart. Again and again, as his officers trying to stop people from coming up on stage, telling the Strokes to stop. And you can only guess that they're worried about crowd safety. It did not look safe. People are rushing up there, and people get trampled. As a VIP in a band, it's totally irresponsible for you to allow that kind of anarchy to happen, a free-for-all on stage. And then on top of it, the police officer assigned with protecting people's safety, who's saying this is not safe. Okay, you call him stupid. In your song, you're demeaning to him. You're saying you aren't that smart. They're not too smart. So what do you make of that? Did you see the video of that? There is video. It's on Twitter. It's circulating around. And I don't think it's that smart of Bernie Sanders to invite the Strokes to perform. I think this is going to get some heat. What you have now is a candidate, Bloomberg, who looks to be tough on crime. And Bernie Sanders looks to be like a cop hater. So that element is really going to go against Bernie Sanders and be used against him every step of the way. It's not smart of Bernie Sanders to fall into that trap that the Strokes put him in, or you could argue he put himself in.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.
Dan Kingston here, asking you to do me a huge favor. Will you possibly rate the Dan Kingston Podcast on Apple Podcasts? Each new rating, believe it or not, really does have a major impact on the way Apple's algorithm recommends content. With just one quick click, you can help promote citizen journalism and end the stranglehold of the mainstream media. Together, we're going to do this. Thank you. I really appreciate your support.